Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce and our Forum Speaker Series luncheon. And welcome to all those watching online as well. My name is Tom Hoffert, CEO of the Salem Chamber, and we wish to welcome you today. It is voting season. And as Ronald Reagan famously said, vote early, vote often. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our president, Mr. Alan Rasmussen, from Will Scott Mobile Mini. Please join me in welcoming President Rasmussen.
Thank you, Tom. Well, good morning. Thank you for being here. A special shout out, first and foremost, to our mothers. A beautiful weekend to celebrate Mother's Day weekend, so a special shout out to all our mothers in the crowd today. Thank you very much. Today's monthly luncheon sponsor is KeyBank, and our season-long presenting sponsors are partners at Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions. We will hear from both of them in just a little bit, but for right now, would you please stand with me for a moment of reflection or prayer, followed by the presentation of our national anthem presented today by Katie Martin. We take this moment to pray or reflect, each in our own way, on our lives and on this moment. We are thankful for the meal before us, for the hands that prepared it, and for those who serve it. We are grateful for this day, for its blessings, its opportunities, and even for its challenges. May we lend each other strength and guidance as fellow leaders within the Salem community. May we be deeply driven to give our best always and be so courageous to meet the challenges we face. Amen. Katie?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, thank you, Katie. Katie represents the H Group, certified financial planners, professionals, and fiduciaries. Katie also serves as our incoming Chamber Business Women's Chair, starting her term on July 1st. We invite our female Chamber members to register for this month's Chamber Business Women event occurring on Tuesday, May 21st from 11:45 a.m. to 1 p.m., as always at Ross West Salem. And the guests there will hear a keynote on growing your own food in Salem. So register at salemchamber.org today. It is now my honor to introduce our head table today. Representing our Forum Speaker Series presenting sponsor, Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions, is Agent and Salem Chamber Past President, TJ Sullivan. Our monthly sponsor today is KeyBank, and they are represented by Senior Vice President and Enterprise Banker, Ernesto Toscovich. Our two keynote speakers from Northwest Natural and CEO David Anderson and President Justin Palfreyman. And then lastly, Salem Chamber endorsed mayoral candidate Julie Hoy. Julie is the proud co-owner of Geppetto's Italian Restaurant and former Greeters Chair. We ask each of you to exercise your valuable right to vote. Next Tuesday, May 21st, is Election Day. In addition to Julie Hoy for mayor, the Salem Chamber has endorsed Shane Matthews for Salem City Councilor in Ward 3 and Councilor Vanessa Nordyke in Ward 7. As Tom mentioned earlier, your vote does count. So welcome them this morning. And now a few fellow dignitaries in attendance today. Our local elected officials, Marion County Commissioner Kevin Cameron, City of Turner Mayor Steve Horning, Salem City Councilor Ward 6 Julie Hoy, and Kaiser City Councilor Sarita Cross. And then a few of my colleagues, past and present, are past presidents, Barb Hake-Resch, Kurt Arthur, Kathy Gordon, Laura Dorn, and TJ Sullivan. Along with my fellow colleagues on the board currently, Brandon Blair, Christy Witzke, Kathy Gordon, Katia Mendez, Laura Dorn, Randy Sutton, Rich Duncan, Roger Hoy, Ryan Dempster, and Ted Ferry. Now, it is my distinct honor to introduce our monthly sponsor today, KeyBank. KeyBank is one of the nation's largest bank-based financial services companies, making it easy to bank where you live. Serving both consumer and commercial customers, KeyBank offers a variety of deposit and investment products, personal financial and financial wellness services, lending, student loans, refinancing mortgages, home equity, credit card, and business advisory services. So I think they do it all, Tom. I think you got them all on there. Simply one of the best in the industry, Ernesto Toscovich serves key clients across Oregon to assist businesses in their growth initiatives. Ernesto also serves as associate professor at Willamette University in their MBA program and on the board of directors for both the Family Building Blocks and the YMCA. Please welcome to the podium Ernesto Toscovich.
Hello, hello. Thanks for coming. We at KeyBank are very thankful for the opportunity to present this event to you together with Chamber of Commerce. I would like to thank Chamber, Tom Hoffert in leadership, for their tremendous work in bringing this community together. Their leadership style, I call it extreme ownership to copy Navy SEALs, is taking responsibility, finding solutions, and not complaining about situations that we find ourselves in. So I'm very thankful that we are associated with you guys. We at KeyBank try to do our part too. Our employees volunteer many hours in local non-for-profits. We also put money in the community. In the last few years, we donated $75,000 to YMCA Veterans Project. We donated $100,000 to outreach program that Santiam Memorial Hospital Foundation does in a canyon. We helped Salem Hospital Foundation with some of their projects, Family Building Blocks, Boys and Girls Club, many others. And we are thankful for the opportunity to contribute. As you mentioned, KeyBank is obviously a large financial institution, but we are very proud that we help our small businesses and larger businesses thrive because those entities bring prosperity to this community. But we are also very thankful for the opportunity to help each individual in this community, especially those who are underprivileged, with financial education, financial wellness, so we can all thrive together. Thank you. And now it's my privilege to introduce a friend and a leader in a local Hagan Hamilton, TJ Sullivan. Everybody knows TJ Sullivan much better than you know me, so it's my honor to introduce him here.
Thanks, Ernesto.
Pleasure.
Thanks. It's nice to be with all of you. Again, a few words just quickly about Hagan Hamilton. Oregon Business Magazine came out with the top 10 biggest insurance agencies in the state, and we are now number 5. And that's in no small part to all of you who continue to be our best referral source. So thank you for that. We appreciate that. I'm always amazed at our team. We have an incredible team of agents, and it just keeps getting better and better. And I want to just take just a second to highlight our employee benefits team, because I know all of you care greatly about your employees. And when you get the health insurance renewals and you see the increases, it's always a source of frustration. Our employee benefits team has got some of the best in the state, and we just added some incredible people to the team. Tiffany Tartak is a new member of our benefits team, and I'm just can't believe the amount of talent that we have. So if you care about your employees and you want to help improve your benefits while holding your costs, I encourage you to give our team a call. You know, when I was on the campaign trail, the topic of natural gas came up way more than I wanted it to, mainly because my opponent was somebody who wanted to outlaw natural gas in the state. And we kept having to have this conversation at every debate about natural gas. And I was like, do you remember when we had the ice storm and we lost power, and the thing that kept us from freezing to death was our ability to have natural gas? And it was like a revelation every time I said it, and it was a source of frustration because, I mean, it was just so obvious, and that's one of those things that I guess, anyway, thank you guys for. Thank you. But it's something that we need to keep our eye on as business people and as residents, that, you know, we have good people that are getting elected that are going to come in and make common sense decisions when it comes to how we heat our homes. The Northwest Natural Gas is a local distribution company which currently provides natural gas service to approximately 2 million people in more than 140 communities throughout Oregon and Southwest Washington. We get to hear from their two highest-ranking officials, CEO David Anderson and President Justin Palfreyman. Anderson joined Northwest Natural in 2004 following a successful executive career at TXU, formerly called Texas Utilities. Anderson worked his way up through the key roles within Northwest Natural, including serving as president from 2016 through 2023, prior to appointment as CEO. That's got to be a hard transition to make, going from Texas to Oregon. And I don't care what industry you're in, but especially in this industry, this has got to be a hard transition to make. Palfreyman joined the Northwest Natural executive team in 2016, following careers with Goldman Sachs, New York, and Lazard's Power, Energy and Infrastructure Group. Palfreyman holds roles internally specific to gas services and storage and renewable holdings. Following their keynote address, David and Justin will share a conversation with Salem Chamber President Alan Rasmussen. Join me in welcoming David and Justin to the podiums.
Well, thank you, TJ. I think we need to take you out on the road a little bit so you can kind of help us describe why gas is good. I really do appreciate that. Real pleasure to be here. And again, I'm David Anderson, and until the middle of last year, I was president and CEO, and now I'm just CEO, and it's our way, the board, to kind of indicate that I'm getting close to retirement and that Justin's going to be the individual that's going to be taking over. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity for both of us to come here. I think it's been 6 or so years since I came and talked to you along with Maria Pope, the PGE CEO. I think it was about that time frame. So great to be back here again. And so just a little bit, I think I've got the clicker here. Let's... Hot dog. So I wanted to give a little bit of background on Northwest Natural. I'm sure quite a few of you are our customers. If you're not, I'm happy to take your number and help you out to get hooked up. But we actually started back in 1859. Our founders were down in San Francisco and saw gas lights. And you know, I don't think they said they were cool, but I think that was the reaction that they had, that they felt it was cool, and they wanted to kind of come north and bring them up here. They actually stopped in Astoria for about 2 or 3 years, did a mercantile store that was very, very lucrative, but all the ships were coming to Portland. So they said that's where the action is. And so they came to Portland and started a gas company in 1859. And so actually we are 6 weeks older than the state. And it's something we're very proud of. Justin will kind of tell you our tagline here in a minute. Only 2 other companies are older than us, and any guesses out there in the state of Oregon, locally owned companies that are over 165 years old, or even the industry? Lumber? That's a good guess, but no. So the first one is a liquor distributor out of Astoria, and the next one is Holman's Funeral Home over in southeast Portland. So, it's not a very good line, but death, taxes, your gas bill, liquor, that's the thing you can count on the most month after month, right? So, we have been here for a very, very long period of time, and we only are as good as the communities in which we serve. And so that's why you always see utilities very deeply involved in local politics, local charities, as the Key Bank president indicated. And it's just very, very important to us because as you do well, we will do well. And if not, then the same thing happens. So we started off manufacturing gas, and then in 1956 is when the Northwest got a pipeline that brought gas in from the Rocky Mountains and also from British Columbia. About 2/3 of our gas comes from Canada, 1/3 comes from the Rocky Mountains. And from that point on, we continued to grow and really experience the growth of the company along with the population. I'm showing you a map here that basically is our service territory. We are a monopoly, right? So you don't want to have a bunch of gas lines going down your street, just like an electric company. We are regulated as a result by the PUC. And our service territory is basically west of the Cascades. We serve southwest Washington all the way down to Coos Bay. So about 800,000 customers, 2 million people, as TJ just indicated overall. And have been one of the fastest growing utilities in the country for a long period of time. We've been in Salem since 1929. So everything started in Portland, and then as the timber industry kind of expanded, that allowed companies like mine to expand and follow the timber industry overall because they could pay for the pipelines coming down, and then we could expand off of that. We're a good taxpayer. We tell the governor that on a regular basis. We tell all your representatives that on a regular basis, and we're happy to do that in order to be able to serve here. But when I became president and CEO in 2016, loved the Northwest, and it was an easy transition as a Texan, I'll tell you. It wasn't as bad as you might have thought. But one of the things that I pretty much started off as CFO, all of our eggs were in one basket here, and it's a great basket to be in. But I really felt we had other skill sets that we could expand into other areas. And one of the areas that we ended up expanding into was the water companies. So about 15% of the country, water companies are private. The other 85% are municipally owned. And we have been acquiring private companies, and probably can't see it on the map too well. But we're in 5 states now. We started off in the Northwest in terms of Oregon, Idaho, and Washington. We're now in Arizona and Arizona and Texas and Idaho. So 5. I did a couple duplications there. And so we've been expanding there in terms of water and wastewater. So if there's ever any opportunities for us to work down here, we'd be happy to do that. And then we're also have an unregulated renewables company. Justin's going to walk through a little bit about what we're doing at the gas company to address climate change and try to work with local officials in terms of how can a gas company be part of the future, which we greatly believe it should be. And that we have our first kind of seed project in the Michigan? No. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm having a senior moment. You can see why I'm going to be retiring pretty soon. No, it's in Ohio. I apologize. But when you talked about that storm, and I'm really glad you brought it up, we have been really, for most of Governor Brown's term, and now with Governor Kotek, and then even from a federal level with President Biden's administration, really trying to point out the value of a gas system, right? I mean, there's a big focus out there on decarbonization. We're all in on it. I mean, if this we're all in on trying to make sure that this planet is taken care of as important as possible. But a lot of folks, just bluntly, are not doing the work to understand the underlying value of an energy system. And when you look at natural gas and the molecules that we deliver, you can see on the bottom right-hand part of the page, in Oregon, our residential and commercial customers are 5% of the state's emissions. You can see the majority of the emissions come from transportation, electricity generation, et cetera. So it doesn't mean we're not going to do our part, but I think that's a good starting point to make sure that people fully understand what's taking place. What other folks don't understand until the events happen that TJ just talked about is the power of the fuel that we deliver, especially on the coldest days of the year. On the coldest days of the year, we're delivering 90% of the energy of the household. That's the gas molecule and the heat content that it can deliver. And on that January, we had another, what we call a record send-out. It's gas that actually goes out through the system. And we distributed about 9 million therms. Now, nobody knows what a therm is, but one therm will run your gas water heater for about 5 hours, just to kind of give you an idea of the energy impact of that. We had no outages or very few outages, and actually the outages were caused by an electric line that fell and arced into our system. We had about 200,000 outages through the electric system. Now, I spent half my career in the electric business, and I'm in half in the gas business. Electricity, it's very important. I'm a big fan of it, but I think we have to talk about two systems are better than one. And especially in those big events that we have like that you can run your gas fireplace, you can cook, you can have hot water. We're there for you. And so there's a big focus in our state and in this country to what I will say is to electrify everything. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense in many areas when you look at the power of the fuel that we're delivering. And in fact, if you electrified all of our load, you probably need 2 to 3 Portland General Electrics to do that, right? It just doesn't make sense. By the way, they're going to be burning natural gas through their pipelines to generate electricity. So we could use your help, right? We're trying to get this message out there. Our team here, Jen Yoakum's down here and things like this. We're happy to talk to anybody. We just want to make sure, and especially if you're in my position and you run the company that delivers the most energy in the state of Oregon, I want to make sure that our region is making good decisions, not political decisions. And we want to do this, and if this transition is going to take place, we want to do it to make sure that customers can do it in the most affordable way possible. And I'm really pleased right now that your gas bill is less than it was 15 years ago. And so I'm real proud of that. We try to run the company as best we can. We've been taking advantage of lower natural gas prices for the last 10 plus years from the shale revolution, and that will continue going forward. But we could use your help, and I'll come back on that in a minute. But let me turn over to Justin to give you a little bit more information about us.
All right, thank you, David. So here's just a snapshot of customers that we serve in Marion County. So you can see over 50,000 residential customers, 25 industrial customers, over 270 schools, a number of healthcare, government, commercial, manufacturing, and agriculture customers. So a very diverse base. It's sort of the backbone of the economy that our energy serves on a day-to-day basis here in Salem and around the county. We also like to point out, one of our classic taglines at the company is "We grew up here." And so our 165-year history certainly reflects that, but we spend a lot of time engaged in the communities that we serve. Up here are just some of the organizations that we support around your area here in Salem. We spend around $1 million a year in charitable giving as a company in the communities that we serve. And our employees, including us, spend a significant amount of hours every year volunteering for some of the organizations that you see up here on this page. Building on what David just mentioned around the transition and the energy transition that's going on more broadly, this is a illustration of the future of our system. So we have a vision for how to decarbonize the energy system that we utilize, the gas system. There are renewable fuels that are already being generated and distributed on our system today, and they come from renewable natural gas. So some of you may be familiar with landfills and wastewater treatment plants or other agricultural processes that create sort of biogenic sources of methane. Well, we can capture that and condition the gas to make it meet pipeline quality specifications, and then it is interchangeable. Those molecules are interchangeable with the existing gas on our pipeline. So we are already underway in doing that. In fact, Oregon was one of the first states in the country to pass renewable natural gas legislation back in 2019, and that allowed us to start this journey of really decarbonizing our fuel supply, which is super exciting. In the future, we've modeled out a number of scenarios where we envision renewable natural gas playing a role, but there will also be a role for clean hydrogen, and hydrogen is one of the most abundant elements on the planet. It is clean burning as long as it can be generated from clean sources, and you can actually use excess wind, solar, hydro, and other forms of renewable electricity to go through an electrolysis process and create hydrogen. The benefit of doing that is that you actually can take that molecule and store it when, and then use it for when it is actually needed. So a lot of times our electricity system is producing power when it's not needed. So picture the hydro system spilling off in the springtime when we have a lot of runoff, or picture, you know, a wind farm or a solar farm producing electricity when it's not really needed, or the time of day that it's not really needed. Well, with hydrogen, you can actually store that and then reuse it at a time on our system when it is needed and valuable, such as the winter peaks and the storms that we described earlier. We are actually engaged in blending blending hydrogen into our system in Sherwood, Oregon today. We've been testing this now for a couple of years just to make sure that the different molecule and elements actually work in our end use equipment. We have a huge training facility up there where we train our crews, and we're able to test to make sure that the hydrogen is safe. And this has been tested in many other gas utilities around the world, and proven that it's safe up to a 20 to 30% blend that can blend right in with the existing gas that we provide today and help decarbonize the system. And then we've also been actually testing a new technology that we have a grand opening later this week up in Portland, where we are taking a new technology called pyrolysis that will actually strip out the carbon from the gas coming into our system. What remains is hydrogen that's now clean that can blend into our system, and then the byproduct is actually a solid carbon. It's a black ash that can be used to be sequestered in asphalt or tires or other products that require that as an input. So really cool technology. Bill Gates has invested in this company. We told them we'd love to test it out on our system, and we have that up and running now in Portland, which is super exciting. So there's a lot of advancement, a lot of evolution going on within our business. The important thing, going back to the politics here, is that people, even here in Oregon, really do agree that natural gas is very important. It's important from a safety and a reliability standpoint, and for keeping our energy bills affordable. There's been a lot of backlash lately about how costs for everything have risen, including your utility bills. And we're doing everything we can to make sure we keep those bills affordable for energy usage, because we know how important that is for you as residents, but also as business owners, and keeping the energy affordable and competitive here in Oregon. We recently conducted some polling, though, that shows that over 70% of people in Oregon agree that natural gas is critical to our energy system. And they either believe that because of the affordability and reliability of the fuel, or because they know that through technologies like renewable natural gas and hydrogen, we can use the gas system to reduce our emissions over time as well. And that, you know, is a little bit contrary, perhaps, to some of the political rhetoric that many of you may have heard or hear in certain forums. And we thought this was really important because, as we learned, as we went out into our communities and talked to them about the energy system, people really are supportive of natural gas. They understand the value that it provides, how it keeps rates affordable, how it is reliable when you need it most, and how it also creates a competitive environment for our industries here in the state. I'll turn that back over to David to talk about areas of opportunity.
So just a couple more comments, and then Alan, I guess we're going to go down here and do a fireside chat. On that last piece, what's important is the polling is showing that the population doesn't want some of the things that are coming down from the political rhetoric, and areas that we could use your help on at the end of this presentation is on state, and also to make sure you're aware of state and state energy and climate policy. So Governor Brown, you know, when the legislature went through and they tried to do cap and invest a couple times, it didn't work out. In her final days in office, she did issue an executive order that required mandated reduction in CO2. And along that line, we spent about a year and a half working with DEQ to try to come up with a program that accomplished what the governor wanted, but also kept affordability at the forefront here. We were not successful, and we ended up having to sue the state. We won the suit. It's now been remanded back. You don't do that lightly if you're in this position, but we were going down a path that the outcome for customers was probably going to have the highest carbon pricing in the world. And you would have seen your bills escalate like you could not believe on a utility basis. we could still use your help right now because DEQ is re-looking at the rules and seeing if they can do it differently. So I think any feedback we can give to our local representatives, and I know the governor was here earlier this year. We've been trying to talk with her to kind of say, let's work together to make sure that we can kind of move forward and do something that's not going to cause even an additional energy cost overall. We talked about water and wastewater expansion, the RNG. You've heard a lot about carbon capture and clean hydrogen. We can talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But probably the most important thing that we could use your help on, and anything that our team can do to support you, Jen Yoakum's here, Zach is here, over here at this table, we would really like to make sure that the voices that polling slide showed are heard by the folks that are making policy. And I think that's probably the last thing, Alan, and we'll go down to the fireside. Thank you guys for listening to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. That was, I mean, very, very informative and a short, concise bit of information there. So we appreciate you being here with the chamber today. And let's start at a very foundational level. I'm going to throw you up a softball here. Natural gas is a fossil fuel by definition, but why is natural gas so much better to burn than coal or oil?
It kind of goes to the slide that we talked about earlier. It is the cleanest fossil fuel that is out there, and that's been well known. Coal is much more pollution, not only in terms of CO2, but particulates that come off of that. You know, if you look at other forms of electricity generation, nuclear, I actually spent the first 5 years of my career at a nuclear power plant. I'm a big fan of it. Very difficult to build those plants. So the latest one was built in Georgia. It was probably 8 years behind schedule and almost double the budget. And so I don't think you're going to see a lot of nuclear going forward because of the ramifications of that. Look, wind and solar are also very beneficial. You know, to be clear, the wind doesn't blow all the time and the sun doesn't shine all the time. So you're really talking about when is that energy needed and how do you meet the need? And for us in the Northwest, we are what's called a dual peaking system from an electricity perspective. We have more and more air conditioning coming online. So I've been here 20 years, but if you go back, there wasn't a lot of air conditioners in houses and things like that. We're now becoming a peaking system in the summertime. And of course, in the wintertime, we still have pretty cold winters. And we have peaks in the wintertime. And our winter peaks are a little bit different than other parts of the country. So my home state of Texas, you know, I used to go to school in the morning in the winter with a coat on, and I come home in short sleeves. Right, that's called a peak event that's very, very short, right? It's cold in the morning, it was warm in the afternoon, so your energy needs are much different. We have long peaks here, and what I'm talking about is weeks, and it's because of our cold, wet, rainy temperatures. And to meet that, you know, and so anytime it's colder, you're using a lot more energy, and right, so what's the best to do that? And a lot of times when we get really cold weather events here, we have no wind in the gorge, which is where all of our wind assets are. And we're not, obviously solar is not a big player in the Northwest as we all know. And so they have to fall back, the electrics have to fall back on electric generation, which is usually now coming from gas. So to kind of work it all the way back to your question, gas is just, it's a very powerful fuel, it's a plentiful fuel, it's locally produced, right? We're not importing this from other parts of the world. And especially after the shale revolution took place, this country can be energy independent if it wants to.
So I remember seeing chariot buses around Salem that stated proudly powered by natural gas as opposed to diesel fuel. The natural gas industry has seen almost a fascinating transformation right in front of our eyes. Once the poster child for industry for safe, reliable, and environmentally responsible energy, the natural gas industry is now the focal point of the environmental and climate change critics. How did this change in public perception gain momentum? And obviously, you asked today to help you, but how else are you trying to address this narrative?
You want to start on this?
Yeah, I'm happy to take a shot at it, and you can add on. Look, I think that the certain constituents, right, in the environmental activist community have tried to create a very simple narrative, which is effective, right? The more simple it is, the more effective it is, and that's simply ban fossil fuels. And what they have focused on is let's electrify everything, and that way we can ban fossil fuels. But what they've missed is the details of how this all works, right? And one of the biggest challenges is that we as a country are consuming more energy, not less, right? And as the needs for industry grow, data centers grow, we're starting to see a very, very significant increase in energy demand. And they have started the transition on the electric side earlier than the gas side has towards decarbonization, which is fantastic. So as wind and solar have become increasingly competitive and cost effective, that's become a more meaningful part of the generation stack. But as David mentioned, it's still intermittent. So we can't rely on the wind and solar. So if you looked at how much wind and solar was generating electricity during the winter storms in January, it was very, very small. It was effectively immaterial. So you needed to rely on something that was producing the energy at that time. And the gas system at that point was stretched almost to its limits in terms of providing the electric generation as well as the direct use of natural gas. And what people need to understand is that the direct use of natural gas is a lot more efficient than burning gas through an electric turbine or a generation turbine to create electricity, and then you lose some of that over the lines as they distribute, right? So if you want to conserve, you get a benefit of using that gas directly, and that's one of the things that people tend to kind of gloss over as they're thinking about the overall energy system. So some of the studies that we've seen, including down in Eugene, kind of indicated that when they were trying to implement a gas ban, when they started really doing the analytical work around it, they realized, well, we don't have any additional wind, solar, or hydro capacity. I mean, they're taking hydro, down in some areas of the state. So where are we going to get that increased energy need? And this is the Eugene Water and Electric Board. Well, they were going to have to go out and purchase it on the open market, which is coming from gas-fired generation, in some cases coal. And so actually didn't have the decarbonization benefit that they thought it might, right? And so the value of the energy system, the complication of it is much different from the simple narrative of let's just electrify everything and ban fossil fuels. If you do that, you're still going to be using fossil fuels and you're potentially using them more inefficiently.
Kind of a follow-up to that, that's got to be a fascinating, I mean, do you guys get a chance to be in the room with the policymakers, and when you get to present that or they see that analytical data come back, what's been the appetite, or is there been some enlightening, some open minds, coming forth here in the state or the region?
Well, since I'm closer to retirement, maybe I'll take the first stab at this because I can't. Folks that will sit down and listen and really. Are you focused on electrification or are you focused on decarbonization? Two different things. Folks that are really wanting to focus on decarbonization and do what's, that we believe is right for CO2, they'll listen. And it doesn't take long for you to kind of do the math and figure out the two systems. We did a study with E3, which is a big supports the electrification side of the equation, to come in and look at the Northwest. And because are we just talking our own book here, right? Or is there something that we're missing? And when they went through it, they said, look, the best way to meet the governor's goals is to decarbonize both systems. Don't pick one over the other. Do as much renewables as you possibly can, right? It also came up with on vehicles, like you were talking about. It's better to electrify vehicles than to use gas, natural gas, CNG. And so you're not going to see a lot of CNG vehicles because it looks like, at least for the personal transportation side of the equation, the electric vehicle is better. Large trucks, trains, different answer, at least at this point in time. But I will also tell you, maybe it's a reflection of where we are in the country right now, there's a lot of people that don't want to listen. And they've already got their mind made up, and it really doesn't matter what you're saying. They're also, a lot of are very funded very well by the environmental community, and so they're trying to find ways to support the person that's funding them as we go through this. So my hope is when we work with elected officials that just like we have to have open ears, they need to have open ears too, because I fear that with the path we're going down right now, we are going to have system breakage. Right, we're not making the investments that our system's in good shape, but if you're not allowing the electric companies to build gas-fired generation, or you're not allowing us to do things, sooner or later things will break. It doesn't have to take a storm. It just needs to take a severe weather event when this is happening. And if you look across the country, the electrical grid has gotten more and more tight in almost all parts of the country. My home state of Texas is, when I was down there, we were the talk of the nation. We had the best electric grid in the country. It's now one of the tightest, and they're having rolling blackouts on these events and stuff like that. So I think we all love it when our gas comes on, our water's right there, and the electricity flips when we flip the switch. I think we're going to have more and more rolling blackouts and rolling brownouts as we look forward, especially here in this part of the country because of the wildfire situation. So the fires we had, and specifically one of the local electric companies, PacifiCorp, which is owned by Warren Buffett and in the Berkshire Hathaway area, it's been determined that one of their lines caused the wildfires. You know, it dropped during the high wind event. And I think some of the lawsuits now are up to $300 billion, right? And Warren is saying, I'm not putting any more money, I'm not putting good money into bad money, right? So what you're going to start having is more and more electric companies proactively shut off when we have high wind events. And it seems like the high wind events are more regular now. In fact, you know, customers are reacting. We're putting in more backup generators than we ever have. I mean, so customers that can have the ability to make that choice. Not all customers can make that choice. If you look at our customers overall, about a third are technically low income, and the next third are right next to low income, right? So we're not a really rich population here. So again, when you get back to affordability and making sure that that energy's there on those days when you need it, because if it's too hot and you don't have electricity, or if it's too cold and you don't have gas, people die. Yeah. And it's a real serious situation.
Well, your answer there pretty much took the answered the next question, but I'll change it up here. What role do you predict that natural gas will have in our future country's energy systems?
Yeah, I think ignoring the political side of the equation, because political or policy level can make different decisions, but when you look at the math, gas is going to be around for a long period of time. The systems are just too valuable. And the amount of energy that we deliver. So do we go through some speed bumps with policymakers and stuff like that, whether it's here, Washington State, you know, California. It's mainly the blue states that are probably more talking along this line than the red states overall, but it's very difficult right now to get past the math of literally, when Justin was referring earlier to the amount of energy increase that's taken place, you know, electric vehicles are using a lot more electricity, so obviously there's more usage of that product. Data centers are amazing in terms of the amount of energy that they use, and it's got to be pure energy. They need it 24/7, 365. They can't go down, and so a lot of that's coming here because they want to use the hydro system. Well, I would argue the hydro system and electricity is already being used by all of us, right? You can't come in and claim that, but the more electricity comes in, the more incremental generation you're going to have. As Justin indicated, we're not building any more hydro plants. We're blessed, in my opinion, with the forefathers that made the hydro system in this part of the country. It's made Oregon one of the cleanest emission states out there. We're actually removing dams, and I know the fish issue, and I'm not, you know, that's what that's all about. But the only place to get incremental electricity generation, you can do more wind and solar, but again, it doesn't perform at the right times. You have to have gas backup generation.
So you've mentioned we've seen certain municipalities considering banning natural gas installations in residential homes and citing into indoor air pollution risks affecting consumers' lungs and healthy breathing. Yet, I mean, consumers love your product. What would you say to set the record straight on how healthy natural gas usage in the home truly is?
Look, you look at these studies and, you know, they're getting to an answer that they want to get to. The number one thing with cooking is you get emissions just from what you're cooking. I mean, if you look at the emissions just from fish on top of your stove, there's emissions that come from that, right? And so there's a reason there's vent hoods. And whether you have an electric cooktop or a gas cooktop, use the vent. I mean, that's exactly why it's there, in order to take care of any of the emissions, whether it's coming off the product, I mean, electricity and what's going on with the pan or the fish or the food that you're cooking in it. All of that, you know, use the vent hood. But with that said, it's very minimal. I mean, it's one of the things we're trying to. There's a study that AGA supported the other day and it's a reputable study that just kind of shows that all these other ones that are saying these things are not saying the facts correctly.
So energy prices, both electric and natural gas, have seen recent price increases to businesses and residential users. What are the influences that affect natural gas pricing, and why do we see this fluctuation?
Yeah, I can take that one. There's a number of things that drive the pricing around this. As you all know, as business owners, that the cost of doing business has gone up with inflation. So whether that's, you know, just paying your employees, or it's the cost of the materials that you purchase, that all has an impact on utility rates, and it flows through. So utilities are, you know, regulated monopolies. We go through a rate case process with the Public Utility Commission here in Salem in order to increase rates, and they go through and evaluate whether or not we made prudent decisions, whether we were paying market wages, whether we were properly bidding out for our material contracts and things like that. So it's really just sort of a lot of the run-of-the-mill safety and reliability investments that we make that will contribute to the capital spend that we do as a company. So that's making sure that we have modern pipes that are delivering the gas to our customers. It's making sure that our storage facilities, which are critical during those peak events during the winter, have functioning compressors and controls and all of those types of equipment. So it's really sort of the basics of maintaining the systems that deliver the energy on a daily basis.
Only thing I'll add to that is if you guys look at your gas bill at home, about 60% of it is the reimbursement for us, for the pipe in the ground, for salaries, for doing business, and that's what rate cases are all about. The other 40% is the price of natural gas, and we actually pass that on at no profit or loss. And so that's, you know, so that can sometimes have a fluctuation in the bill because we update that every November 1st. It's called the purchase gas adjustment that takes place, and it looks like that portion of the bill is going to go down this November. We hedge out a lot of our product. We store it in an underground storage facility up in Mist, Oregon, and then we also hedge it out to try to kind of take any volatility, because you can imagine gas prices are higher in the winter than they are in the summertime, right? So anything that you can do to kind of capture that price in between is what we try to do to make sure that bills stay as low as possible. And as I mentioned on the podium, you know, I'm really pleased that the gas bill today is less than it was 15 years ago. So yes, there's been some price increases lately, but I'm not sure what else you could tell me. Maybe flat screen TVs are cheaper than they were 15 years ago. So I think, you know, we have to take that into account. I think the electric companies have a little bit of a different issue, because a lot of times when you're building the renewable energy, you're also having to build the backup generator. So if you think about the kilowatt that they're trying to produce from the renewable side of the equation, they're also having to build a kilowatt of backup, whether it's a battery. Batteries work a little bit, or it's really a gas-fired generation. So you're really building two pieces of equipment for one form of energy. That's the dilemma that they're kind of having right now in terms of addressing things. And then, as we mentioned earlier, energy load is up a lot, and especially at the data centers. So when that happens, that requires a bunch more investment to kind of serve those data centers.
So you mentioned in your slides a sister company, the Northwest Natural Water and Wastewater Utility Services. I thought that was very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more of why you decided to go into that and what you see in the future for that?
Yeah, I'll do the why. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I really felt when I came in that we needed to diversify as a company, and we tried to look at skill sets that we had that we could apply elsewhere. And if you think about water distribution and gas, it's taking a pressurized product, or taking a product through a pressurized system. You better be good at running a system. You better be good at customer service, which we believe we are, and you be good at regulation. And so it just kind of fit in perfectly. And so we started acquiring those. Wastewater is a little bit of different, but basically the same type of dynamic. It was also an opportunity that we could acquire things that were the right size for us. We're big for Oregon. We're about $5 billion in assets, but that's not really big for a country in the big scheme of things. And so it allowed us to kind of have bite-sized acquisitions that we could do. And then we're now in the O&M services businesses on the water side, which I think is going to be expanding us to be able to go to any municipality and help them out, whether it's with a billing type thing or if there's a capital investment they need, we'd be happy to do it as long as we could come to an agreement. But I'll let you talk about the future, because he's also the president of the water company, and so and you're going to have this role pretty soon. So what do you think?
Well, I would just add a couple things there. The need long-term for investments in water and wastewater is really significant, and some of you may know this, but as we as a country are looking to have more and more stringent standards around our drinking water as well as our treated effluent, so the wastewater that goes through that process. It's going to require a lot of water treatment. It's going to require a lot of wastewater treatment. It's going to require a lot of upgrades to some old systems, whether it's wells or storage facilities or pipes. And we felt we could play a big role in that, just having the balance sheet that we do and being a publicly traded company, that we could bring our expertise, as David mentioned, but also really invest in the future of our water and wastewater infrastructure. And we're really excited about it because our investment thesis when we got into this business about 6 or 7 years ago has really proven out. In every jurisdiction that we've entered, we've seen just more and more of a need for that type of investment.
So you mentioned partnering with municipalities. So let me know if I'm thinking this correctly. The city of Salem spends a lot of money, budgets a lot of money on their wastewater treatment system, their water systems. They could potentially come to you guys and say, hey, let's partner on a win-win solution, help cities budget, and it's something you guys want to do. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And we could provide services to the municipality. There's a number of smaller municipalities and districts that are interested in the water services that we provide, whether that's just meter reading and maintaining, sampling the water systems and maintaining the infrastructure. But we can also invest, and we last year just opened a new wastewater treatment plant in Sun River, Oregon. Those of you who've been out there in Central Oregon. It's Class A treated effluent, sort of the top of the line in terms of the environmental standards set by the EPA. And we are looking at other opportunities to partner. And there's an interesting nexus for us, too, between the wastewater industry and renewable natural gas. So the city of Portland's largest sustainability project actually was a partnership with us to produce renewable natural gas from its wastewater treatment facility up on Columbia Boulevard. That is now flowing gas onto our system. It's using some of the gas from that is actually fueling their waste hauling fleet from that facility. So there's a lot of kind of win-win opportunities there.
Seems like we always talk about effluent at lunch, so I'm glad we got lunch out of the way. Our timing is always really poor on these things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. How may Salem businesses partner with Northwest Natural to find ways to lower their company's carbon footprint?
Yeah, first off is call us. We're happy to come out to even look at how your just cost and bill and how we could be a better service to you. On the carbon side, again, a lot of businesses are calling us for renewable natural gas directly, and so we'd be happy to help out there. But they could also, I think the biggest help overall is on the policy side and making sure that folks are hearing your views. I think it's really, really critical because what we're finding is I think a lot of, when we were talking about the gas bans and stuff like that, people just don't believe it's happening. They say this is stupid, and I agree with you, but it's happening, right? So your voice needs to be out there, and especially chambers like this is incredibly important. In terms of making sure that, I would argue, energy choice is important, and make sure that that's forefront of a lot of conversations out there. Because if not, I think we can find ourselves with very, very expensive outcomes that are not going to be good for business, they're not going to be good for the region, and we're going to be looking back saying, why didn't I say something?
So as leaders within your company, what are each of you most excited about in the coming 12 to 24 months? I mean, yours might be retirement, but what are you excited about?
Well, we've got a lot of really exciting things going on. I mentioned our hydrogen work earlier. We're very excited about that, and we're just now starting to see investments in new technology for gas decarbonization that I think has a really bright future. We're very excited about the growth of our water and wastewater platform. We're in 5 states now, and we continue to grow. We serve about 175,000 people with that business. Still smaller than our gas utility, but our gas utility has been around for 165 years, and our water business is only about 6 or 7 years old. So we're very excited about that. And then the third thing we're excited about is our renewables business. We have these 2 large landfill renewable natural gas projects in Ohio that are supposed to be commissioned this summer. And that will be providing decarbonized gas to a number of other utility, industrial, and transportation customers across North America. So super excited about all of those initiatives.
I think it's exciting to be part of this energy transition. It's also concerning, right, as we go through this, but I think it's terribly exciting. And it's the best part of our job is working with our customers. I mean, we're usually ranked number 1 or 2 with J.D. Powers for the west of gas utilities, so I think we're doing a pretty good job there. But this is a great region, and they're great people, and it's just exciting to be able to provide an essential service. And retirement's not a bad thing to be excited about too, but that's a little bit of ways off.
Oh, okay. So I said to you guys up here earlier, is there something I missed? Is there something you'd like to share with us that we didn't discuss today?
The only thing that I would add, and it's sort of a nuanced point, but it's really important when we're talking about advocacy around policy or energy policy in particular. There's a big push to drive carbon taxes effectively at the state level, and we've seen this in Washington. It's already playing out, and there's this push effectively to do this in Oregon to tax gas through this DEQ program. Which is a bit concerning, and it's concerning because it's going to make bills really expensive here, and it's going to make businesses less competitive here. But it's also concerning because it's going to drive behaviors that are not going to have an impact on the environment, right? If you're expanding a factory or opening a new plant or anything like that in the state of Oregon, you're going to say, well, I guess I should just go to Idaho or Montana or some other place where the cost of energy is much more affordable. And guess what? That's not going to have any impact on carbon emissions, right? So it's really important that we work closely with our policymakers and other stakeholders to get to smart energy policy that leads to true, CO2 reductions over time in an affordable way.
Well, maybe I forgot something, but maybe the crowd's got some questions today for these two. No karaoke, just a question.
Oh, okay. Well, that's unfortunate. All right, I'll sit back down. Now, so this comes from a conversation I had about 10 years ago in college, longer than that. But so thinking about, you discussed introducing hydrogen in to sort of supplement the methane and everything that's going through. The conversation then was using hydrogen is smaller molecule, pinhole leak becomes a bit of an issue, something to do with the steel and whatever. So old infrastructure, introducing a new concept. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what we as the people might have to do as you're transitioning in between?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So hydrogen, everybody knows what hydrogen is, right? If you look at water, it's H2O, so it's the H2, right? So pyrolysis is just breaking those two apart as we do that. And hydrogen's been around for a long period of time. So if you look at natural gas, methane, the molecule versus hydrogen, you're right. It's a smaller molecule, physically smaller. It's also a lower heat content, BTU content overall. And so one of the things that everybody's been talking about is, can you put that molecule back in a pipeline, and is it too small for a steel pipeline or a plastic pipeline, poly pipeline, and stuff like that? It's been done in Europe for many years now. Overall, we've been testing it for the last 2 years up in Sherwood at our facility. We blended up to 20% coming through. And again, if you can create hydrogen from wind and solar when it's not being used, like Justin talked about, that's clean energy, right? I mean, that's pure clean energy, just like wind, electricity, and you can store it. So we have not seen any issues with embrittlement, is the terminology that's being used in the industry. It just requires us to blend the product differently because you want to make sure that your flame at home doesn't get weaker, right? And what people don't realize is Mother Earth doesn't give us all 1 BTU content natural gas now. We blend it now to make sure that it meets tariff specs for you overall. I also think you're going to see dedicated hydrogen systems in the future, especially industrial parks and stuff like that, to where the whole thing is built to just take 100% hydrogen. So it's been done in Europe. We're probably 5 to 10 years behind Europe on this energy transition, assuming we go through the paces that they went through. And hydrogen's a big piece of that overall. Denmark has got a big piece of that overall. They've been moving forward not only on that, but on renewable natural gas. And I was trying to remember, What's percentage of their system
They're
is?
over 30%.
They're over 30% renewable natural
yeah,
gas, which is
renewable natural
hydrogen and the
gas.
biogenic sources we talked about earlier.
The other thing I would add is our pipeline system up here, our distribution system at Northwest Natural is the most modern, tightest system in the country. We were the first to replace all of our bare steel and cast iron pipe. It was a program that we put in place in the 80s and 90s and 2000s over many decades. So we have a very modern system that actually makes it a good candidate for hydrogen and decarbonization.
So occasionally on the evening, evening news, somebody's residence or commercial building explodes. It doesn't seem to happen around here. Is that aging infrastructure issues, or is it something else? What is that?
Well, thank you for that question. So most of the time, it's something that is happening usually at the household somehow, some way. Sometimes it can be the utility. If I think I was on my 80th day on the job, and we had an explosion in Northwest Portland. And what happened is a contractor hit a pipe that they didn't, you've seen the paint in the streets. It's called locates. You're required to do that by law so you don't dig into infrastructure. They decided not to call in the locate. They hit the pipe, and that gas leaked into a building basement and caused an explosion. And of course, to have an explosion, you got to have a high concentration of gas and an ignition point to have both of those. But one of the things for safety that the natural gas business has been doing it forever is putting mercaptan in the gas. So if you've ever smelled gas, it smells like rotten eggs. And I will tell you, if you ever smell it, you need to call 911 or call us. That's the #1 safety message that I can give. And if you do that, it's very safe. Everybody will get out there quickly. Usually my team will get out to an event within 30 minutes across the entire service territory if you call in and say, I have an issue. Yeah, no, I mean, if you're worried about being in your house, get out of the house, right? But by that time, you're probably having a hard time with the smell anyways. I mean, that level, right? The other thing is, if you are a contractor or anything like that, you need to call 811 and set up a locate, right? There's a lot of stuff in the ground that's not just our stuff, right? Is you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself at risk. And you'd be amazed how many times our system is hit a day. I usually get a text probably anywhere from 5 to 10 times a day that somebody has hit our system and that we have to go repair.
That's one of those revenue sources you don't really
and it doesn't
highlight or like to see that.
I don't get any
line,
revenue off of that, right? It's just we have to go out now and make the system safe. But look, it's very rare for that to happen, and usually it's because somebody didn't call when they were smelling gas, and that's probably that's the #1 way to be safe.
We'll probably have time for one more question.
You mentioned in your speech that thermal energy lasts for about 5 hours. Gene Durfer and I would like to know where you purchase that.
Well, you can purchase it directly from us because that's what a therm is. It's a measurement of gas.
My serious question is, though, how about we hear in the past about Coos Bay, and I saw on your chart up there you had Astoria on exporting natural gas. Is the Coos Bay thing, Marshfield, completely dead?
Yeah, so what he's talking about is when you compress natural gas, it turns into a liquid form called liquefied natural gas, and it's much more compact, if you will. You can store a lot more energy than you can in gaseous form. And there's LNG, liquid natural gas, there's LNG tankers all over the world, and we've been talking about doing that from the West Coast. Coos Bay is one of the only leftover deep water ports on the West Coast. That won't happen, mainly because of local policy is, and I think a company tried for a period of time and just didn't get the permits through. There's one up in BC that does look like it's going to go through, and of course a lot of that's going to be going to Asia. So think about Japan. Japan generates none of their own fuel. They import everything, and so LNG is a big driver of that for them. But I don't see anything with Coos Bay going forward. Do you have anything to add?
No, it's very prevalent up in British Columbia and very prevalent in the Gulf Coast in terms of LNG exports. But we have 2 LNG storage facilities, so they're not exporting. We actually use it to serve our customers on those peak winter days, and it's what David just described as we liquefy the gas and then we gasify it when we need it in the cold events in January to support the system and make sure we're keeping our customers' homes heated.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all's time today. Thank you very much.
Tom texted me the winner of the flower bouquet, so had to look that up real quick. Well, we wish to again thank CEO David Anderson and President Justin Palfreyman for joining us in Salem today. Your industry is invaluable to the local businesses here. And a special thank you to our former Salem Chamber staff member and current governmental affairs manager at Northwest Natural, Zachary Salicki, for putting together today's program. Thank you, Zachary. A thank you to Katie Martin from the H Group for presenting today's national anthem. We wish to recognize our partners every month, Allied Video Productions, Capital Community Media, and Salem Convention Center for showcasing your talents to put on today's event. To our Salem Chamber ambassadors in their Navy logoed jackets, we wish to thank you for your work in welcoming our members each event. Thank you very much. To Ernesto Toskovich, the sharpest dressed man here in Salem today, and the skilled team at KeyBank, we thank you for your strategic support of the Salem Chamber in sponsoring today's Forum Speaker Series Luncheon and your involvement year-round. Each month, the Forum Speaker Series Luncheon will be presented by our partners at Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions. Thank you to the John family for your support, and to the Hagen Hamilton team starring Chris McLaren, TJ, Chad, and Matt. On May 29th from 11:30 to 1:30, we bring you the second Lead Small Business Series event featuring a keynote of financial management for small business operators. This is one maybe for yourself or some of your vendors in the community. It's going to be presented by Amy Jordan of DPW CPAs and Jim Vu of Core Solutions Consulting. The Lead Small Business Series is a strategic four-part series training course for business owners and entrepreneurs designed to demystify the pinch points affecting small business here in Salem. The series presenting sponsor is Ted Ferry of State Farm Insurance. Thank you, Ted. So go to, if you want to attend this event, go to salemchamber.org. And then we have a huge event occurring on Wednesday evening of next week. The McLaren Leadership Foundation, the Salem Chamber's Philanthropy and Leadership Development Arm, hosts the 25th Annual Crystal Apple Awards Banquet. This is on next Wednesday, the 22nd. We will recognize excellence in public and private school education. This year's Crystal Apple nominations totaled 98 individuals. So while the upstairs banquet room is officially sold out, we do have a limited number of tickets still available to the downstairs viewing party at the Salem Convention Center. Thank you to our presenting sponsors, Mountain West Center for Community Excellence, MAPS Credit Union, and the Epping Family Foundation. So if you want to check that out, please register at crystalappleawards.com. And then 1 month from now, we'll join back here for the 2024 Business of the Year Awards celebration. That'll be Monday, June 10th from 11:30 to 1:30 here at the Convention Center. This meeting serves as our annual membership meeting, as well as the Leadership Salem Cohort Graduation Day. Our Board of Directors team feels so strongly that each one of you, that we make that affordable for our members, so tickets are only $15 for the lunch and program. And then we, as always, we close with our flower centerpiece giveaway. There's beautiful flowers here presented by Ross Fresh Markets. And our winner today is Lori Miller with the Equitable Center in downtown Salem. These beautiful flowers are yours today. And I have two last things before I let you go out in that beautiful sunshine. One, simple message, just go vote. Your vote counts. And then secondarily, there's a gentleman in this room, a statesman, a gentleman to the definition, Mr. Gene Derfler, will celebrate his 100th birthday next week on May 24th. Well, thank you again, and have a great day.